Khaya, perhaps just take us through the judge's reasoning behind dismissing these charges.
Well, absolutely, Michelle. So it comes, like you just alluded to, that particular judgment by Judge Mojapelo really ruling out that the display, a gratuitous display of the old national flag constitutes hate speech. So a short while ago, Judge Lamont actually said, going through so many stuff that has been brought before the courts, actually he did not reach that particular conclusion, as the Nelson Mandela Foundation has been seeking, that these particular courts really make a ruling that Mr. Roets actually should be held in contempt of court. So in essence, Judge Lamont said it's not really the case. But of course, from the outset, there was a very robust argument whether should this matter be heard by a high court or the Equality Court. But of course, Michelle, we have a number of reactions. Joining us now is the ANC's Khayelihle Khumalo. So, sir, thank you so much indeed for joining us. Maybe your fleeting reaction in light of the verdict.
Look, as the African National Congress, we know the outcome of the court. What we'll do is to study the outcome of the court and decide on what course of action to take. But on a preliminary submission, is that I think the court misses the point, because there is a lethargy from the side of the court, in particular dealing with matters of racism, racial bigotry, and inequality in our republic. It's confusing that we have a court that says it cannot handle this particular matter. This particular matter needs to go to another court. I mean, from our founding principle as a constitutional democracy, the court is the final arbiter of any dispute in society. The best that the court would have done is either to do a proper decision rather than to throw away the case based on the fact that this is the wrong court. But nevertheless, issues of racism, issues of racial bigotry are civil matters also, which I think this court was competent to have handled them. But nevertheless, it needs to be understood whether the outcome or no outcome. It cannot be possible for any citizen today in the world to go to Israel and fly a Nazi swastika. Equally needs to be understood in our country. It cannot be correct for any citizen to come and fly the old flag of Khayelihle, because that flag represents one of the most brutal policies which have ever been declared by the United Nations as a crime against humanity. So it cannot be done in our country. You'll be rubbing salt in the wounds of the victims of apartheid colonialism. That will be very arrogant, it will be very insensitive. And I think the court, including those who wants to perpetuate this particular racial bigotry, are missing the point that lethargy can lead to lawlessness, where people will have to take the law into their own hands, because those who are in authority, be it the judiciary, be it lawmakers, would be failing us as a community. And it goes even further to issues of migration. It goes even further to issues of economic exclusion. For as long as we continue with this lethargy, we are running a risk of plunging the country into something that we don't want.
And just briefly, sir, your role as a governing party, maybe just briefly, what can you do in making sure that you change the discourse in South Africa? Your role as a governing party in making sure that the symbols that we have actually represent the new nation that we're trying to create.
Look, as the ruling party, we have done our best. We brought in a new dispensation, we brought in a new constitution, we brought in new flags. All of us need to respect that particular process, because it's an outcome of a negotiated settlement. You know, this country was on the verge of a civil war. We had to avert it and brought these things. Now, what is expected from all of us, irrespective of whether you are AfriForum or you are ANC, we must be loyal to our decisions. We must be loyal to the Constitution, to the flags that we have. That's why we cannot tolerate it, that anybody must fly a Nazi swastika in Israel. And equally in South Africa, we are not going to tolerate it that anybody must fly the old flag, which has killed many of our comrades, including Solomon Mahlangu. More than 4,000 of them displaced millions and dispossessed millions of their land.
It's not fair. Due to time constraints, I'm afraid. So very sharp views from the governing party, Michelle, really talking about the history that we're just coming from, a very turbulent history at that. And of course, the judgment has just been handed down by Judge Lamont. So back to you in studio.
Well, thanks very much for that. Khayelihle Khumalo getting reaction there from the governing party around that decision from the South Gauteng High Court. It's dismissed the contempt of court charges against AfriForum's Ernst.